Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode one, whatever, of the 476ers podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the NBA standings, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhyme that are coming from my mind.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode. I don't know why I did it again. I don't remember what episode it is. I never do. We're going to talk about the standings. Before we do, you may notice I have a white hat on. I've never worn a white hat in my life. Now, I wear many hats. If you know me well, I know I wear all of the hats. However, I've never worn a white hat, but this is a special hat. This hat is a hat for my new endeavor called Brawn in Mind. So please support that. Actually, I repurposed the 476ers page on Instagram to Brawn in Mind, even though Instagram is fucking up the name, but it's fine. I'll fix that in the next 14 days because apparently I have to wait for that 14 days. So that'll be transitioning to that, and I'll just be posting essentially the 476ers content on my own personal page, since essentially my 76ers podcast is kind of like my own personal place. It's like my own echo chamber where I come to scream out of anger and frustration and disappointment about the Sixers, but really is not necessarily for anybody else. It's more for me, whereas Brawn in Mind is going to be something that I'm doing to help people. So please share that. Essentially, if you don't know, the long story short is I want to help people, give them advice. You know what I mean? The best way to put it is I just want to be a professional advisor for whatever people need, whether they need help with their mental health, if they're unsure about going to therapy, or maybe they're in between therapy, they don't have health insurance or just coverage for a therapist or not, that hopefully I can kind of be an intermediary for those people to help provide them some sort of solace or some comfort, you know what I mean, just kind of based on my own experience. And if you go to my website, you can read my blog, which I'll be updating probably at least weekly, plus I'll be giving a corresponding podcast starting this week along with each blog so that I can kind of give more in depth about my experience and, just kind of my view on stuff, whether it's like body image issues or self-worth issues or things with anxiety or food disorders, especially dieting, eating, all of those things. So that's what I want to do. You can book a consultation with me through the website. I'm still kind of working out the details on plans and pricing and kind of how I want that to look, because I would like it to be my, like my job eventually, or my career. And I have a couple things in mind about how that would look, but ultimately, really, I just want to be able to help people. If I can offer any help to somebody, then, that's a win. So that's that. That's my spiel. So this is the hat. I'll be getting more merch. I just wanted to kind of test it out. This is a Vistaprint hat. So it has a very Vistaprint-y thing, like as if I have a horn in the middle of my head. It's not the best looking hat, and it's fine. I'm really wearing it because it has my logo on it, and I want to show love to my own thing. So there will be merch, though, only really because the logo is fire. And, pat myself on the back, what can I say? Although, got to give a shout out to the homie Christian, who is the one who came up with the mind, actually. With the name of it as a play off my initials, and which I just immediately identified as the most hipsterish sounding brand I could ever think of. And that's perfect, exactly where I wanted to go. That was the direction I wanted to go. I want to have my hipster beard and my hipster tattoos while I drink some hipster IPA that I fucking hate. But then I can also help people. So yeah. Also, shout out to Blueprint Network, Blueprint Barber Lounge, the homie Izzy, who is trying to do some big things, who want to give a public shout out to for including me. On Sunday, he had a networking event, included me, and I'm extremely humbled to have been invited at all. Humbled that I got to meet so many other successful entrepreneurs who, took an interest in whatever bullshit was coming out of my face. So I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. So check out that. That'll be some big things coming. There'll be an event in January that I will hopefully be speaking at. Not hopefully, I will be speaking at. So come check me out if you want to see me talk, or if you want to meet a bunch of other successful people to learn from them. It's going to be something it's going to be major. So, I think it's like, I'm excited. I'm excited for all of it. So that's that. That was like a 3-minute intro. I've never given an intro that long. Who else can I give a shout out to? Shout out to CJ Wendler, HVAC. If you need that HVAC work, that duct work, even though he doesn't like doing duct work, but if you need that duct work, my man's he's gonna put them ducks in the house. You feel me? He's gonna do it. He's gonna put the ducks in a row. You know what I mean? Just a little play off of the words, but yeah, CJ Wendler, HVAC, the Climate King. My man will keep you cool or he'll keep you warm, whichever one you need. So that's that. I think that's all I got. Hit up Izzy for a haircut. If you look busted, he's gonna make you unbusted. You know what I mean? And that's, it's kind of, yeah, trust me, if you've ever seen me one day and then the next day you were like, oh, Brian looks handsome today, it's because I got a haircut. You know what I mean? And no other reason. You did not, your eyesight did not adjust. You did not go from 40/40 to 20/20. It's that the lines on my face became razor sharp. So yeah, that's that. I'm done now. That was a lot of stuff. I went there. So let's talk about basketball now. And for those of you who don't give a fuck about basketball but wanted to hear the intro, then, you're welcome to leave or you're welcome to stay and hear me bullshit for, 40 minutes or however long this is going to take. So let's start in the East. Obviously, I haven't had a Sixers podcast in a bit since last week. Sixers are losing. It's not anything new. Obviously, without Joe, we're kind of limited. And I'll say this one thing about the Ben situation that honestly, I don't ever want to talk about him again, but if there's going to be updates, then he's going to have to get spoken about. So right now I'm going to say this and then I am done for Ben. If I don't trust Rich Paul. Now I don't know Rich Paul to trust him or to distrust him. I don't know him. I don't trust him. Right. And this shit that came out last week with Shams about, feeling like the Sixers are trying to do X, Y, and Z or trying to make Ben play or trying to pressure Ben into playing and how it's having an adverse effect on his mental health. I am not really willing to take Rich Paul's word for that. You know what I mean? If it is happening to Ben, I understand that. I want to hear that from Ben. It's kind of enough of all the back and forth sources are saying this, the agent is saying this person is saying this. Now I kind of, Ben, if you got something to say, then you need to say it. I know your mental health, if you're suffering from a mental health disorder, I completely understand and I completely respect that. But with that said, a thing I have said for many, many years, I should get this tattooed onto my fucking face. Because it's probably the most important thing I had ever said when I was really going through my depression or my social anxiety, and I would flake on things or not show up to things, or my friends would want me to be somewhere and I wouldn't go. I always said this, right? Because I was always apologetic, and they would always say it's okay, and I would always say it's not. Because the truth of the matter is, just because you have a mental health disorder, you have some issues, does not give you an excuse to be a dick. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have consequences for your actions. You know what I mean? It does not mean you're not going to have consequences for your actions. That is just the long and short of it. That's the reality of it. We can be understanding. You can be upfront. You can be vulnerable, and we're all going to respect that. And people are going to lend. They're going to help as much as they can, especially today where this is kind of like more of a hot button issue. People are more willing to lend an ear or lend a hand and help however they can. But you have to also, it's a deal. It's like a social contract. It's an unspoken contract here. That's like, hey, this is kind of what I'm suffering from. The contract and the agreement is that you be patient with me and I'm going to do my best to meet you there. Right? That is actually what the contract is. The contract isn't okay, I'm suffering from a mental health disorder, so please acquiesce to my every single need, because that's not really how it works. You know what I mean? A lot of mental health disorders sometimes, not a lot, but some mental health disorders may spawn from people who are, I've always said that with athletes, you can't really compare an athlete's life. And I talked about this on my podcast when I talked about Naomi Osaka, right? You can't really compare your life to an athlete's life, because a lot of athletes grow up in a weird way that once family and friends realize that this person is kind of like a meal ticket, they essentially don't ever have to lift a finger. They don't really face real responsibilities anymore. They're not necessarily faced with real stuff. And that's not the case for every single athlete. Obviously, there are athletes who come from really, really rough backgrounds. But in today's society where becoming an NBA player essentially means that you're going to have generational wealth at your disposal, as opposed to back in the 80s, 90s, but when people saw that there was a way, but it was still brand new and it was still hitting the lottery. Today, there's more of a formula. It's still very difficult to do. Nearly impossible, but there's a clear formula. So when they see it, they see it. You know what I mean? So Ben probably hasn't encountered many times where he's told no or told, whatever. And he, obviously there's all this family drama, and I don't know all of Ben's details, but it's clear to me that Ben surrounds himself with people who are essentially just going to agree with him. It's no different than anyone on Facebook who essentially removes people who have dissenting views or dissenting opinions and decide to place themselves in a bubble or an echo chamber, a la me on this fucking podcast, who put themselves in this echo chamber and decide that I am not going to listen to any dissenting view or anything that would contradict what I already believe, right? I'm not going to listen to anything that would confront me. I'm going to actually delete that and remove that from my life. Well, Ben, that's not actually how the real world works, unfortunately. You know what I mean? There are no places you can go where you're just going to be making millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. You're going to have millions of dollars worth of interest, and your mental health is going to be the thing that holds that up. If that's really the case, then you should retire from basketball. That's kind of how I feel about it. If it's the case, then you should retire from basketball, because the other option right now that's not really thought long about is, then if you get traded tomorrow and all of a sudden tomorrow your mental health is healed, how does that work? How is that going to work? That doesn't really jive here, from what you're saying and mixed signals and all this shit that's happening. That doesn't really work a lot. That doesn't make sense to us. So then at that point, if you really want to talk about vitriol or someone who's going to be kind of like vilified, well, if you leave and you play the next day, if you get traded and you're playing the next day, you're going to be vilified worldwide. Maybe the only people who will cheer for you are the fans of the team you go to. But the way people are going to boo you at every other stadium for lying about your mental health, because that's what it's going to appear like. Maybe it's true. Maybe you are better the next day, but that's going to be hard to believe for people. And you're going to be vilified in a way that if it was your mental health, it's about to get worse. Just put it that way. So that's all I got to say for Ben. I will not open this can of worms again unless we find another update, which there was another update last night. We find him again, but whatever the fuck. Okay, let's jump into it. So the Wizards, I can't really believe that they're kind of legit. You know what I mean? It's very confusing. They have a lot of guys. They traded Russ, Russ at this point is a net negative. I mean, the numbers that he's putting up on the Lakers are abysmal. I mean, he's averaging, on the surface, it would seem impressive, right? He's averaged like a 19.9 9. Oh, well, that's incredible. 1999, we're the Bone Thugs in Harmony, the Thuggish Ruggish Bone, 1999. Right, but then you look and he's shooting 29% from three and 43% field goal percentage, and he's averaging 5 fucking turnovers a game. On any given day, if you ate 5 turnovers, you would gain weight like this. So imagine 5 turnovers in the NBA. Russ is struggling, but that's not the point. The Wizards got rid of him. They replaced him with Spencer Dinwiddie. They replaced him with Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, and Kentavious Caldwell Pope. And yeah, it's kind of like a better situation from them. Obviously, Daniel Gafford helped them a lot last year. He's still playing well. They just got back Denny Advia, who's playing really, really good defense. His numbers aren't great, but they look legit. I think they play the Warriors tonight, if I'm not mistaken. The Warriors are on the road, which we'll talk about the Warriors in a second. Good for the Wizards. They've been trash for many, many years. This is the best start they've had since 1974, and they're 10-3, which is 10-3 is like, that's a good start, but it's 10-3. It's not 20-3, so they look legit. The Bulls are playing really well. The Bulls are kind of, they're not benefiting, but today, this year is really, really weird. If you look at the teams who are good, right? One, who even knows who in the NBA is good right now? The NBA this year is very similar to the NFL this year, where all the teams that you thought were good aren't good. Well, I never thought the Lakers were going to be good, but the Lakers obviously aren't good. The Warriors seem better than we think they are, but the Warriors have played like 10 home games already, which we'll get to in a second, but they're 11-2 overall. They're 8-1 at home. You know what I mean? So they played 9 home games out of 13 games. Which is the most home games they've had ever in the history of the franchise to start a season. The Bulls are beating up a lot of teams, but they also just got blown out by the Warriors, and then they beat the Lakers, but the Lakers aren't really even that good. They've lost to us twice, and we were playing great, and it's kind of confusing because obviously, we didn't have all our guys. It was just Joe and a bunch of guys, which is not confusing. Joe is incredible, so it really does make sense. And then the bunch of guys that we were missing are kind of trash, and, they're back, and we still suck. Well, no surprise. I'll get to that in a second. But the Bulls do look good. I do think the Bulls look good. I mean, their offense is legit. Zach is legit. I can't even believe how good that dude's gotten, man. He went from just a dunk contest dude, man, like literally from a slasher high flyer to a complete offensive NBA player. I mean, coming off of screens, running off of pin downs without the ball. He moves a ton without the ball and moves really well without the ball. Can shoot threes off the dribble, can drive, obviously. I mean, it's really incredible. And DeMar looks like he's an MVP candidate. He just scored 38 last night. He scored 36 last week, too, I think. I mean, they're legit. They're a fun team to watch. I'm not really that surprised. Patrick Williams would have really made them different, but you figure even if this year doesn't go good, I mean, I would look to move Vooch. They lost Vooch, and they're still winning because Vooch offers nothing on defense, and offensively, he's not the focal point of the offense because he was not good enough to be a focal point of an offense. So they look legit. The Nets, they're rounding into shape. No pun intended to James Harden. But James Harden is starting to play well. These free throws are starting to shoot up. Obviously, he's playing himself into shape. I mean, he was clearly out of shape. And now he's playing well. KD is averaging 29 a game or whatever it is. He's another MVP candidate. They're kind of doing it quietly a little bit. Patty Mills has been huge for them. He's been just shooting lights out. So we'll see. I haven't paid attention a ton to their competition, to be honest. I haven't really been paying attention to a lot of the teams they've been feasting on. Obviously, they beat us. But then, listen, I said this the last time I went through the NBA. I would not, even a bit of me would be worried about the Nets. As long as Kevin Durant is on that team and James Harden's on that team. In the regular season, at the very least, they're going to be fine. In the playoffs, they're walking in with Kevin Durant. That's the best player. In the playoff, that's the best player in the world right now, unless it's Giannis or LeBron, and LeBron has to dial the clock back a little bit for that to really be true. The Heat went from the darlings 2 weeks ago to 2 weeks later. They've been up and down. They've been 6-4 in the last 10. They won 2 straight games. Last night had some injuries. Tyler Hero's playing really, really well for them. Bam has been good, still getting bodied again by anyone who's a little bit stronger than him. But they've been up and down. They lost a couple games. Obviously, there was a Joker incident last week, which, let's just be real. And I didn't get a chance to talk about it. I'll just say my quick piece on it. Look, the Morris twins are always starting shit with people. They did this. They fouled Joel in an ugly way a few years ago. They did it to Ben a few years ago. There's always some shit with them dudes. And yeah, you definitely 100% took out Joker. The only reason I didn't feel comfortable talking about it necessarily was because for a lot of people covering the NBA, it started kind of taking some racist overtones that I didn't feel comfortable about. It seemed like there was a clear split where white people were like Joker was right, and then everybody else, every other minority was essentially like, no, we're with the twins. And it was kind of like, yeah, but no, they both kind of did a shitty thing. You know what I mean? Joker, that was an ugly foul for sure on Joker, but Joker retaliated in a way that wasn't cool either. But if you watch, there was a clip circulating yesterday about Joker getting into arguments with people, essentially starting shit with people. Yeah, Joker, a lot of these guys don't want to get pushed around. No one's going to get pushed around. I'm sure Joker is kind of being like the way he's built, and like the way he looks is he almost looks a little like obtuse, he kind of looks like he's sleepy and, whatever. I'm sure he doesn't like people even thinking that he's someone that should be fucked with or tested, because everyone's going to feel that way. If you have any sort of ego or pride, you're going to feel that way. Although I would posit to say that you should probably try to let go of that so you avoid, running into Markieff Morris or whichever Morris twin it was into his back and almost making his face break. Although I understand why you were angry. So fuck them both. The Cavaliers. Cavaliers are a fun team, man. I got to be real. They're a fun team. I mean, they just lost to the Celtics yesterday. Last week, they beat the Celtics after coming back. They were down big and they come back late. The Celtics, they have their own issues, but the Cavaliers look legit. I mean, Evan Mobley looks legit. You know what I mean? He causes a ton of issues on defense. He's just a defensive menace. I mean, he's as fucking long as, what's a good length thing? He's as long as Kanye's that last album. I mean, he's as long as Donda, without a question. You know what I mean? Like, he is as long as that album is, and probably as unfun to play. if I'm being honest. He is as unfun to play as Donda is, if I'm being honest with you. Shout out to Christian. I'm sure that probably triggered him a bit. They lost Colin Sexton, and I kind of was part of like the contingent of people that was like, yo, I think they're probably going to be better without Sexton. I mean, I watched the game against the Celtics that they came back. I mean, Sexton, essentially 3 straight possessions, almost turned the ball over, just 3 straight possessions of making bad decisions, trying to get the final shot until they inbounded it to Darius Garland. Garland makes like a quick move, gets fouled, sinks 2 free throws, and they win the game. And Sexton kind of gets bent. Sexton just doesn't have like a really good nose for what to do in the right moment. He just seems like he wants the moment at all, like by all means necessary. And it's not always the best case scenario for him. They found like a lot of synergy playing these 3 big lineup with Laurie and Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and part of it is because while Laurie is too slow to really guard the perimeter, it doesn't matter. They have 2 elite rim protectors and 2 guys who are very good defensively in space. And now you add Darius kind of playing next to Ricky Rubio has been really, really good, because Rubio is like of that Lonzo, that type of prototype player that's like, I don't need the ball in my hand to make plays and to help other players get off and, to make the right decisions. He doesn't need it. So it's kind of working really, really well, like this little combination. Rubio is also shooting really, really well from 3. I think he may even be shooting a career high percentage from 3. So that's kind of working out really well. They're going to be an interesting team. I'm sure they're going to bust our ass. We always have trouble guarding small guards. Well, except that Ben's not playing, so we'll probably be fine. The Knicks have been up and down at best, 5-5 in the last 10. Had that hot start, and then it's kind of been, like touch and go for them. It's similar to the Hawks, right? When you're now the hunted. You're no longer catching people by surprise. You're now the hunted. They're getting out and running a lot more in transition. The Kemba thing is, up and down at best. But one thing that I think I said this last week, the East just isn't, or no, last week in the podcast the podcast that I did last week that didn't record. The East is no longer like it's not just a walkthrough anymore. The East is kind of a pain in the ass. There are no off days when you're playing in the East right now. You would have played the Cavaliers last year, and you're like, okay, well, that's a win. And this year, it's like, nah, man, it's not about to be that easy, whether it's the Hornets, whether it's the Cavaliers. Even the Pacers, while they, started off the year like really not good, they're kind of a pain in the ass. The Magic are kind of a pain in the ass. Like there's a lot of pain in the ass teams in the East. It's not easy right now. And I think the Knicks, I think the Hawks too. I think both of these teams, I think even the Bucks to an extent, are probably suffering from that a little bit. I think that's why you're seeing some of the newer teams up top, the Wizards and Bulls, teams that you wouldn't normally see because they are the also-rans of the East who are now not being also-ran, right? They're now teams that look like legit. But, the Wizards, obviously, I forgot to mention Wes Unseld Jr., a first-year coach. So, a lot of teams are not to be slept on right now. People are getting caught off guard. The same thing with the Celtics. With us, listen, it's there's no alarms to sound. We're not full. We don't have Joel. We don't have our best player. Toby is Toby. I'm fucking sick of him. And yeah, ball stopper galore. He thinks he's Carmelo, never that efficient. And obviously it's not a surprise to me that we have no Joe, we have no Toby, we're losing. Toby comes back, we're still losing. I'm not really surprised at all that that's the case. I'm not surprised at all that's the case because I figured Toby would fuck up the ball movement that we were benefiting from while Joe was here. Toby did have a good game the other night. Scored 32, but in very Toby fashion, he had 27 in the first 30 minutes of the game. He had 27 points, and then scores 5 points the last 18 minutes over the last 18 minutes of the game. Like it's not, then he wore these awful pants the other day. Toby, who's dressing you? I mean, who is dressing you? What is that? Who stitched that together? Who put that together? I didn't want to take a picture and do it again. I don't want to shame you like I did on Game 7 again last year. But what the fuck were those pants? What are those patterns of the pants? What are you doing? What are you doing? Your game, much like your pants, stitched together. But not just stitched together, but stitched together of the most awful patterns and materials. I mean, what is that? Fuck. Hornets, like I said, same thing. Another team suffering from the fact that the East is better. You know what I mean? They just beat the Warriors on a 3-game. They have essentially been a team of streaks. You know what I mean? Where they started hot, then got ice cold, and then they're hot again. They were 5-7, and now they won 3 straight. Now they're 8-7. Some up and downs. They just, it is what it is. You're running into a lot of teams. They are a younger team, so it's not quite there. It's like a weird team. You know what I mean? Like Gordon's there and Terry Rozier's there and everybody else is super young, but then here's also Mason Plumlee, and it's kind of like, what is this team exactly? You know what I mean? But I do like it. I like all the pieces. I just think one of the pieces needs to be upgraded in some way. I don't know what that way is, and I don't know what that would look like, but it just feels like there needs to be an upgrade. Like this team, like the Hornets would be great if let's say Karl Anthony Towns said, nah, I went out of Minnesota for whatever reason, and the Hornets kind of put draft picks and, take Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward and draft picks and give me Cat. That would be a really fun fucking team to come back. Now you have all these young guys. You have Cat. You got something. You got a thing here, right? It'd be like really interesting to watch. But, they're kind of a piece away from really making a noise, and they're kind of a mini LaMelo bump. I mean, the missing thing about LaMelo here is that, I think I mentioned this previously, like he benefits from being on highlights, but if you're watching the games, you see him get benched, you see him make really bad decisions sometimes. He's incredible, don't get me wrong, he's incredible to watch, but when you're actually watching the game, you're seeing you see a lot of the downfalls from him. You also see the upside, you know what I mean? You see both of them. Like I said, they just beat the Warriors. It was an incredible game. I mean, just a really fun game to watch. The Hornets are they're must-watch TV. If you have League Pass or if they're on national TV, you definitely want to put on a Hornets game. Celtics, another up-and-down team. I mean, Tatum loved Kobe Bryant, and he is desperately trying to shoot like him. You know what I mean? Tatum is just desperately trying to be a volume scorer. Every single game, I look at the box score, and he's 8 for 20. Every game he's 8 for 20. I mean, he just wants to be. He's trying to get 824 so that he could have both Kobe numbers. Rest in peace. He's trying to do it. Every game he's trying to do it. I mean, his shooting percentage is awful. Somehow, the German Dennis Schroeder's playing really, really well over the last week. But it's just the same thing. When you actually watch Dennis Schroeder, you're reminded why Dennis Schroeder is not a starting point guard in the NBA. You know what I mean? Why he should not have the ball in his hand, because he suffers from like delusions of grandeur, where if you inbound the ball to him, he now wants to finish this. No matter what, he wants to finish this. And it might not be good. And now you got him and you got Marcus Smart and you got Tatum shooting 8 for 24 or whatever he's doing. And it's like, it's a confusing team. They're not particularly enjoyable to watch. I mean, fuck the Celtics anyway, but Jalen's been hurt. Ime Udoka is not. I have my own thing about him. The Raptors, also the darlings of the East a bit, but now they're kind of coming back down to earth a bit. Same thing with Scotty Barnes. He's coming down to earth a little bit. I mean, he's still incredible. He's still like just incredible, but he is coming back down to earth a bit. Obviously they beat us, but we're missing Joe, and they took the opportunity. God knows Toby was trying to post up everybody on the Raptors. He just, can't help himself. He just needs to post somebody up. Just is what he is. He's like a post box. You know what I mean? No matter how much he is saying, no matter how much you revolutionize technology, there's always going to be a post box. It just is what it is. There's always going to be a post box, and that is Tobias Harris. No matter how much we learn about basketball, no matter how many analytics we use, Toby is going to post somebody up, without a question. Milwaukee, like I said, you know what I mean, kind of suffering from the fact that there are no more off nights in the East right now. So 3-7 in the last 10, a lot of injuries. Chris Middleton's been in and out. Brook Lopez has been in and out. Drew's been in and out. Giannis has played every single game and is putting up incredible numbers. Dante DiVincenzo's been in and out. They're going to be fine. I'm not really worried about it. I mean, the level that Giannis is essentially playing at on a consistent basis is out of this world. And there are games where he essentially says, no, I'm not going to lose this game. And then they don't lose the game. You know what I mean? Because Giannis has reached that level. So I wouldn't even worry about the Bucks. The Hawks, I would worry about. A young team maybe experienced success a little bit too early, and now they're kind of eating that. Trey the other day had a great game, scored 42, had 13 assists, shot like 11 or 12 free throws that game. Probably his best shooting game of the season too. He hasn't been shooting particularly well. His 3-point percentage is at like 32, 33%. Not great. Not great for the volume of 3 pointers he wants to shoot. DeAndre Hunter injured again, is about to be out for 8 weeks. Cam Reddish looks like on certain games, he looks like, I mean, at certain games, he looks incredible. He looks like T-Mac. In certain games, he looks like Marvin Williams or something. You know what I mean? Just a guy that's just like, why did you get drafted so high again? So, who knows what the Hawks are going to happen. But Nate McMillan, maybe Nate McMillan did outkick his coverage a little bit last year when he took over. They got hot. Obviously, Bogdanovich had come back. But Nate McMillan at every stop, I mean, he's been fired at every single stop for a reason. You kind of, you could almost argue. So you wonder if maybe it's come back down to earth. You know what I mean? It's kind of coming back down to earth. So we'll see. But the Hawks, Trey said it right. You know what I mean? Trey said some things that I don't agree with, but some things he did agree with. And what did he say? He said that we are now the hunted. You know what I mean? And he's 100% right. You Trey, you're the hunted. You're the one, you talk shit on behalf of everyone here. And now everyone wants to fuck you up. And everyone else is getting fucked up because of you. It's pretty much what's happening. You know what I mean? You want to talk big? Carry a big stick. Word to Teddy Roosevelt, another racist. The Indiana Pacers obviously had a horrible start to the season, starting to kind of come around a bit as they're getting healthier. Karras has been playing a lot better. Karras and Brogdon haven't shared the court a ton yet this season. Obviously, you know how I feel about that pairing. So we'll see what happens when they're both healthy. They played 1 or 2 games together healthy where they both played well. I think they might have gone 1-1 in those games, if I'm not mistaken. But, it's whatever. Essentially, the Pacers are just a bunch of guys that are just a tick below. Everyone is nice. Like, I wish we had Brogdon. I love Brogdon. He would be our second best player, but I am also very aware that Brogdon is like the all-star. When I talk about all-stars last year, where I said, like, this is like the Kyle Lowry all-star special, where it's like when you put an all-star guy on a team, you like, this guy's on the all-star team, but he doesn't really do anything flashy or fun. It's like Rudy Gobert. He's on the all-star. Yeah, he's an all-star, but what are you going to do, block a shot? You're going to do a reverse block? You're going to jump in the air and pirouette and swat something? It's not, hey, what are you going to do? Like Pascal Siakam, what are you going to do? And, you're going to spin on somebody and lay it up? That's not really interesting. Zach. Well, yeah, in the All-Star game, he's about to backflip, yam someone's body through the rim. You know what I mean? So it's different. But the Pacers, they obviously beat us. Not a surprise again. You know what I mean? Here goes Toby. Let me post up DeMontis. Hey, I got some bonus. Mismatch. Entry pass, mismatch. Seth, throw an entry pass. Well, one, you're asking Seth to throw an entry pass. The wrong person to throw any pass is Seth. And then you, Detroit, trash. It's whatever. Not much to say about that. I mean, Jeremy is awful. It's not awful, but it's just like, a lot of, put it this way, just a lot of 3 for 10 games, 1 for 10 games, 2 for 12. I just don't even be knowing. Like, he's a volume scorer who doesn't really shoot a volume amount of shots and therefore doesn't really score a voluminous amount of points. Cade had a good game last night, though. They lost. Cade, he's coming around. Cade is, maybe Cade is legit. Obviously I didn't believe in Cade. Maybe I'm going to eat my words on that. He had a couple good moves. His shooting percentage isn't great, obviously, but he's playing well. The Magic, they're a pain in the ass for a lot of people. Franz Wagner, is looking kind of legit, and a lot of people have said this. A lot of different podcasts have talked about that the Warriors probably should have drafted him instead of Kuminga, and they're probably right. He would have helped them right away. Kuminga is a project, maybe with a higher upside, but Franz would fit way better. He's a better passer. He's also a good defender. Can kind of play multiple positions, can do a lot of different things. Can kind of initiate your offense, bring the ball up. He's a good player. I don't know what happened to Mo. I mean, Mo, I don't know what happened to Mo. I mean, it's very much the Steph and Seth thing, except that Seth is the younger brother and Franz is the younger brother, but Franz took all the skill set, so I don't really know what happened to Mo. Poor Mo. He's there too. He's with the other Mo Bamba, who's, been playing solid. Jalen Suggs, his shooting percentage is awful. He hasn't been playing great defense, but, just shooting wise, he's been struggling. And kind of Cole Anthony's come out of nowhere. Cole Anthony's having a great season. Every now and then you just look at his box score, somehow he'll have 30 points and 16 rebounds, or yesterday he had 30 points and 13 assists. And I don't know, except that they don't win any of the games. They don't win any of the games. It's kind of like Andre Drummond with the 20 rebound things. He's going to have 20 rebounds all the time. We're going to lose every one of those games, though. That's Andre for you. You know what I mean? That's baseball, baby. But except Andre. Warriors, kind of mentioned them. They're legit. Steph is incredible. He's the MVP right now, I think, in the NBA. I know his numbers aren't the greatest, but the same reason why Steph has ever been the MVP is the reason why he arguably deserves MVP this year. And the answer is because Steph is just a mismatch while he's on the court. He just creates so many openings for everybody else to do anything else that they want. It's pretty incredible. You know what I mean? Their second best player is Draymond Green, arguably, and Draymond's he's having a good season, averaging 9 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists, something like that. It's a great season for Draymond, but it's like, well, someone else has to score here, right? Steph essentially just makes it possible for everyone else to score. Like I mentioned, they played the most home games that they've ever started a season with. So you take that with a grain of salt. They've beat every type of team. They beat bad teams, good teams, hot teams, cold teams. You know what I mean? So now they're on the road. We'll see what's going to happen. I believe they do play the Wizards tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see. Steph is must-see TV. Anytime Steph is playing, you got to watch it. He's incredible. I mean, Steph is incredible. He's moving up that list. I said this 2 years ago that I thought Steph was in front of KD. Last year, KD had overtaken it pretty clearly because of his, the performance he made in the playoffs, which, listen, rightfully so. I mean, that performance was wild. And but ultimately, now you have this year where it's like you're looking at Steph and you're like, yo, man, there's an argument that these two guys are just going to go kind of down neck and neck in history. 10 and 11, 11 and 12 all time, whatever it is. It's incredible. That's all I can say. It's incredible. Both of them have games that will lend to them playing forever. You know what I mean? I don't care if KD is 45. There's no one that's ever going to stop him. He won't be as effective defensively when he's that old, but offensively, he's going to be able to get a bucket wherever, whenever. He's like fucking Shakira. Wherever. I'm meant to drill this jumper or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a singer, I'm a rapper, so I can't freestyle or whenever, wherever bar off the top of my head. You can't ask that of me. Don't expect that from me. The Mavericks, they've been playing better over the last week. They're not particularly fun to watch. I'll be honest with you. I mean, obviously it's still like Luka magic. He hit that game winner against the Celtics last week, and that was incredible. The one thing I will say that is amazing to watch about the Mavericks is any single time you tune in, if it's a 5-point game with 3 minutes in, stop everything and just watch and see what happens, because Luka's about to do something incredible, and it pays off every single time. I mean, it pays off every single time. He's about to do something wild. He's either about to curse out the ref or he's about to hit a game winner, and there's no in-betweens, if I'm being honest with you. KP's been playing well over the last couple games. I mean, up and down. He just injured, healthy. Who knows what's going on with KP? I can't fucking figure it out. I just know that the team itself isn't that particularly fun to watch. Jason Kidd has a lot to prove as a coach. Luka came in out of shape, but here they are, 3rd seed in the East, right, in the West right now. So, we'll see what happens. They just beat the Nuggets. Last night. Speaking of the Nuggets, Joker had a monster game last night. As they lost. I think he finished with 35, 16 rebounds and 7 assists, something like that. The problem with the Nuggets is that Michael Porter Jr. hasn't been what they hoped he would be. They figured they lost Jamal Murray, that Michael Porter Jr. would kind of naturally step in as the second scorer, as a volume scorer, could take a lot of shots, would average maybe 25, 26 a game. I mean, he's a hell of a player, but, my man is more anti-vax, and now he's just straight up trash. You know what I mean? He went from anti-vax to garbage. So, go figure. Maybe if you would have gotten a shot, your shot wouldn't have left you. You know what I mean? Maybe if you would have taken a shot, you would take better shots now. Who knows? Ultimately, though, you need Jamal. I mean, you need Jamal. It is what it is. You need Jamal Murray back. You know what I mean? So the Jazz, they've been up and down. They came off the last 10, 5-5. But it was a little bit worse than that. I mean, I think at one point they were probably 1-4 in the last 5 games, something like that. They've been struggling. They've been struggling a little bit. It's just, and I don't really know why. They're not really injured necessarily. Donovan's playing really, really well. Mike Conley's been up and down, and Rudy's just Rudy. Is just, I think that maybe it's just getting stale there. And I mean, listen, I love Quinn Snyder, but you wonder if that team is getting stale. It's the same thing every year, same thing every week, every game. And it's always going to come down to, what are you going to do in the playoffs? Can Rudy be on the court during the playoffs? That's all that's ever going to come down to. Can Rudy be on the court during the playoffs? So far, they haven't been able to prove that's the answer. I think they're going to be fine no matter what. They'll probably finish top 4 in the West, but you just wonder, is it getting stale? Is it getting old? You know what I mean? Is it getting old? Do they need to shake something up? Do they need to trade Rudy? What is Rudy even worth? If you're going to trade Rudy, who would actually trade for Rudy? When, again, the point is that He can't dominate mismatches. He's not a good offensive player. So what is he? You know, he's a great defensive player, sure, but so was Roy Hibbert. You know what I mean? Verticality. And very, very horizontally left the league right after that. Clippers, I mean, I don't really know how they're doing it. You know, they have a lot of guys, you know. I don't know if I would categorize any of those guys as good, but they have a lot of them. You have a lot of Eric Bledsoe going on, a lot of Reggie Jackson, who was, you know, top 2 or 3 in isolation scoring last year, whatever that's worth. But Paul George is really the answer. He's been playing incredible. You know, essentially what he got in the playoffs last year, whatever he learned in the playoffs last year, flipping to the regular season, he's playing incredible. He's been really, really fun to watch. He's become a better playmaker every single year of his career. And now, you know, he's kind of carrying this team alone, you know, and it's not like Scottie. It's not like how Scottie Pippen did. It's not at all like Scottie. This is better than Scottie. Paul George is better than Scottie Pippen. To anyone out there who's confused. If you want to use the Scottie, you need to chill. Scottie, you've talked yourself into the hearts and minds of many people, okay? You've talked yourself in. Now don't talk yourself out, because people are going to start rehashing your career, and I'm hearing it happen more and more on different podcasts. Wait. We did it. We did it here. 3 to Tango. Shout out to the homie Fresh. Shout out to the homie Vic. We did it here. Scottie, when were you ever considered the best player in the NBA? When was that? I don't remember that season. Was that a Dr. Strange season? What? Which reality is this? There's only one shaking? There's only one reality where Scottie was the best player in the NBA? Relax, Scottie. You need to chill. People are going to rehash your career and remember, well, Scottie, no. Oh, that's right. MJ is the greatest. Lakers, they're trash. I mean, I don't, you know, whatever. 6-4 in the last 10. You know, they've beat some bad teams. Russ is, I mean, just, you know, LeBron's been injured. It just, a lot of Malik Monk going on. I mean, just a lot of Malik Monk right now. You know, they just got back Taylor Horton Tucker 2 nights ago, I think, and he shot 18 shots yesterday. Taylor Horton Tucker, 18 shots. Whew, my man, that's kind of wild. It's Taylor, Horton, Tucker, THT, not TNT. He don't know drama. He need to relax. He's VIT, THT, VIT. He needs to relax. I don't believe in this Lakers team at all. I never will. As long as you're telling me that you're going to put out there LeBron and Russ together, and AD is not going to play the 5, wake me up when that's not the case. Wake me up when AD is the 5. And you have other good shooters around. Because last night, Russ went 1 for 3. LeBron routinely going last night, Russ went 1 for 9. You see LeBron has games 1 for 10, whatever. They're just people shooting threes and it's not working. It's just awful. They're just breaking 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. It's awful. It's awful to watch. They're not really particularly good defensively. It's not a good team. You know what I mean? I don't believe in this team at all. I believe in LeBron, but I mean, even LeBron can only go so far with this shit. You know what I mean? You know, poor Russ. Pobrecito, Russell Westbrook. Pero ¿qué pasó? What happened? What happened to you? Has there ever been a player to average a triple-double over multiple seasons? The answer is no. There's only ever been one who's done that. Has there ever been a player to put up numbers like Russ has been put up, and then over a span of 2 years, his career is the Dark Knight, because he goes from essentially the DA of Gotham, you know, that's the Boston way of saying of Gotham, the DA of Gotham to Two-Face in the span of 2.5 hours. And that's essentially kind of like the Russell Westbrook story. It's really a wild thing. Listen, Russ is one of the top 75 players of all time. He deserves to be on that list without a question. And the numbers are just incredible. I don't give a fuck if he's hunting rebounds and assists. I don't give a shit. You still have to get them. You know, you still got to get them. It's still pretty impressive, but it's just that if you want to win games, if you want to get into the playoffs and make noise, he'll get you to the playoffs. But if you want to make noise, no, it's going to be quiet. It's going to be a mouse. You're going to be a mouse in the house if Russ gets you to the playoffs, unfortunately, you know, and I hate to say that, because I do respect Russ's like fire and determination. You got to respect that. Grizzlies, darlings of the West, started hot, now cold. I just think that, I don't know, you look at this team and you really wonder. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a really nice player, but what is he? If he can't play the 5, then what exactly is he? Because I hate Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson Jr. together. You know how I feel. In today's NBA, if you're marching out a true power forward and center, and neither one of those power forwards is AD, KG, or, something like that, then I don't like it. And I don't even like AD playing the 4. That dude's a 5, but just the point that he's a little bit more mobile, can cover space as a 4. But Jaren Jackson has the ugliest jump shot I've ever seen. He drains them though. But just too many games that I look at, and it's just like Jaren has 19 points and 2 rebounds, and I'm like, you're 7 feet tall. I don't really understand that. Ja's having a great season again. He was shooting the 3 really well. I haven't checked in the last week and a half or so. I don't know what his 3-point percentage is, but he was shooting 3-point really well earlier in the season. I just don't know if they're good enough. You got Dylan Brooks. Like, who is your second best player? Is it Jaren Jackson? Is it Dylan Brooks? And if either one of those 2 guys is your second best player, there's no possible way that's enough. There just isn't. It just isn't no possible way that's enough. Taylor Jenkins is a really good coach, but, it's just not enough. You know what I mean? Like, is Jaren Jackson going to take a leap that he needs to take? We'll see. That's going to remain to be seen. That's going to be the question. The Grizzlies are going to go as far as Jaren Jackson can go, essentially. You know what I mean? Because Ja can't do it all on his own. You know what I mean? No small point guard really can. Oh, shit, I skipped the Suns, which is wild. Speaking of small point guards, Chris Paul. And, that's kind of very prescient because they're 9-1 in the last 10 games. They're on a 9-game winning streak. They have the longest winning streak in the NBA right now, and no one's paying attention to it. And it's kind of crazy because I wasn't paying attention to it. I didn't even notice that until yesterday, if I'm being honest with you. Chris Paul is just maestro. They're having another great season. The thing is, ultimately, when it comes to the Suns, the first word that comes up is Robert Sarver. So I don't think people are paying attention to the Suns because they're paying attention to all the Robert Sarver shit. But really quietly, the Suns are second in the West. They look legit. Chris Paul is incredible. And Booker is kind of rounding into form. He started the season kind of slow. He's been playing better over the last week or two. Ayton came back healthy, I think, 2 games ago. It didn't even really matter. They were still playing well without him, which doesn't bode well for Ayton's contract. But either way, the Suns are there. We'll see what happens. I mean, they've really been flying under the radar. It's really impressive. Down to the Trailblazers. Now the sun has set, and we're on the Trailblazers. I mean, this team is awful. I mean, fuck this team. Dame isn't playing well. We know that. The shooting is not there. I mean, he's shooting a career low percentage from all over the court. It's pretty bad. But it's just like, how far are you going to get with this team? Like, I like CJ McCollum, but the Norman Powell thing was so dumb. It just didn't make any fucking sense. You got Covington there. He scored 11 points, a career high 11 points yesterday, probably. It probably isn't his career high, but it feels like it. And then Nurk, it's just like, when you're a center like Nurk, if you can't have the skill set like Joker, you're limited. Because you're not big enough to be Steven Adams, meaning that you don't impose your will enough like Steven Adams does. You're too slow on your feet. You're not really good in a pick and roll. You're a solid defensive player, but there's no way you could be the 3rd best player on a championship team. It's just no way. Not unless the other 2 best players are KD and James Harden. You know what I mean? Like, or Steph and Clay. Then, yeah, you could be the 3rd best player on a championship team. But if it's going to be CJ and Dame, it can't be you. Unfortunately. So it's just this team has no way to get better. You know what I mean? And arguably probably is time to blow it up. Neil O'Shelley's about to get fired anyway because he's apparently created a hostile work environment. So we'll see where that goes. But not a particularly fun team. The Kings, they're going to fire Luke Walton, sure. I'm certain. The Kings are not going to go anywhere. They never do. They're in the 10th slot right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they're out of the 10th slot by the end of the season. But who knows? Because teams 11 to 15 have no reason to be in the play-in tournament. Again, I mean, the East is better than the West right now, which is kind of crazy for the first time in 56 years or however long it's been that's ever happened. That, since Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain were both in the East, this has never been the case. So, I mean, but the Kings are just, like, what is the Aaron Fox exactly? Like, Tyrese Halliburton's not been having a great season. He's been having a good game a couple good games over the last few. He had a good game yesterday, but what are they? I like Davion a lot. Just Marvin Bagley is playing a few minutes, and apparently he refused to come in the game last week. I don't even know, man. This team is a fucking headache. I will say Rashawn Holmes is having a great season. Shout out to the homie Paul. I told him, fuck Rashawn Holmes, go pick somebody else up, and I was wrong. I'm sorry. My bad. My mistake. Sometimes, yeah, man, sometimes I be wrong. I'm saying you're gonna throw a lot of darts at the board. Not all of them are gonna be bullseyes. All right. The Thunder, fun team. Listen, the Thunder are a fun team. They're not good, but they're fun. I like Alex Giddy a lot. You know what I mean? I'm giddy on him. You know, I'm sorry. Giddy up. I'm sorry. I'll stop. Obviously, I love SGA. You know how I feel about SGA. I would die for him. You know, and I would trade Ben for SGA in a heartbeat. But they wouldn't. They wouldn't. I would have traded Ben for SGA 2 years ago. Broken pictures through what is it? Faded pictures through a broken glass. Wolverine picture. Wolverine. You know what I mean? It's a shame. Timberwolves are awful. I mean, I don't know. They're just awful. I'm out on Cat. I take it back. I said Cat. I thought Cat was the third best center in the NBA based on upside alone, and I still believe that if it was just upside alone, Cat's the third best center in the NBA. But now, you know what, Cat? Now you got to show me something, bro. There is some talent on the team. All right, there is some talent on the team. It's not like you guys aren't good, but I mean, D'Angelo was like, can score a bit, and Anthony Edwards is really like, I like Anthony Edwards a lot. You got a bunch of wing players, and then there's you got to be better than this. I mean, this is awful. The West, again, the West isn't even that good. Like, come on, bro. Like, your upside was third best center in the East, but until further notice, you're dropping out of that. You know what I mean? I'm dropping you out of that slide, and it's easy. It's bam easy. It's bam easy, and that's it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm gonna do. It's not Rudy. For if you guys thought I was about to say Rudy, you please forgive me. It ain't. The Spurs. I love DeJounte. You know, I love DeJounte Murray. Again, put 13, 14, 15 here. Slap them together. Put 11 through 15 here. Slap them together. Do you have 15 NBA players? Let's see, SGA, Alex Giddy. I would keep those dudes. Oh, I would keep Luke Wentz, Dort, Cat, D'Angelo, Anthony Edwards, right? DeJounte. A lot of point guards on this team. Keldon. Pirtle's playing really good. Yakov. Pelicans. Brandon Ingram. Zion's not injured. Do we include? Okay, Zion. It's 11. Josh Hart. Yeah. Then we got Josh Green from the Rocket, right? Josh Green? Josh? Is it Josh? Vietnamese? I'm a Filipino. Kevin Porter. Are we sure Kevin Porter? Because sometimes I don't know what's going on with Kevin. I don't know what's going on with KPJ. Eric Gordon, I guess. 15. That's 15 players, and then in the G League, you can put Alperen Sengun. Oh, Christian Wood would be on that. So boom, 16 players. I'm sorry, got one over. I'm one over that. One over with this 1, 2, 3 with 5 teams. I have 16 NBA players. So, the Thunder have enough draft picks to fill these 4 rosters underneath them for the next 4 years. So that's it. Everybody, we play the Jazz tonight. That's going to be an L, I assure you. No, unless Joe comes back somehow. You know, some miracle, something miraculous happens. That's probably going to be an L. That's it, everybody. You know the drill. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. Black Lives Matter. Stop Asian hate. Get vaccinated. Wear a mask. Do whatever the fuck. Stay away from me. Please don't cough. Don't sneeze around me. Don't be in my vicinity if that's how you feel. Keep an eye out. Braun in mind. I will be putting out a podcast showing the more vulnerable side of Brian, which if you know me, you know that is essentially like my default is vulnerability. So that's it. Everybody take care. Thank you for listening. Anyone who listens to my podcast, I love you dearly from the bottom of my heart. I truly enjoy you. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Justice for the blind. Just something that'll find in the rhyme that are coming from my mind. Used to come